It's another Formula One show, and this afternoon we're still discussing the sharp drop-off by Charles Leclerc in just concluded Grand Prix. And to continue that discussion that we started before is Mustafa Jinadu, Mr. Johnny Kunle Williams, and myself.
Okay, so once again I want to say that Charles Leclerc is a good person, but he's not a good liar. On the radio when his car started to drop or during around lap 40, he was on the radio. You have to trust me. I know how to do these things. I'm paraphrasing. In other words, we got to cover up this plank thing. You made a mistake by adding too much. I mean, not a mistake, but your idea of adding more pressure to the tires to raise it ain't working because by adding pressure to the tires, the ride height increased, but they lost grip. That's my theory. So what he was saying on the radio, you just have to trust me. I know how to do these things. Basically, what he's telling is that we can get around this plank wear because I don't think Ferrari wants people to know that plank wear issue is dogging them all year.
Yes.
Same thing with Hamilton. Hamilton Q1 in China. The car looked fast down to the ground. You can see the sparks coming from the bottom of the ground, which is the downforce on the curbs. Then all of a sudden they had problems in the long race. And my theory is because once again they started playing around and lifting the high height for especially for Leclerc. But then Hamilton got disqualified because the wear still happened. So to me, it's clear that they're trying to cover up, and that explains when Leclerc's statement about you have to trust me, I know how to do things. I think what he's saying is that they should have just kept the car where it was, and that as an expert driver, guys like him and remember the guy Raikkonen back in the day, they'll know how to do it. It's sort of like in Nigeria, those downforce drivers who can drive a car without brakes. He was basically telling them this shit ain't going to work because going with my theory by raising, and it's not my theory. Julian Palmer says it, and I think George Russell. So don't think I'm making this up myself, but George Russell also made these statements that there was something weird going on, and their theory is that they raised the tire pressure to try to compensate for the wear later on in the race. The first stint, beautiful, he was leading, but the theory is that probably after the first stint or the second stint, they said, okay, now we were leading and we're doing well, but now we got to raise this car or we're going to have an elimination for plank wear. And I think that's what has been hurting them. And all of this goes back again to them changing their front suspension. They changed their front suspension from a push to a pull rod. And by doing that, that makes the car faster, but like McLaren uses it in Mercedes, but it makes you have to drop the ride height. And clearly, when they changed that suspension, they didn't get the whole package together to make sure that at a low ride height they wouldn't have plank. So the idea is that yeah, you change the suspension, now you can go lower to the ground and go faster, but you didn't solve the overall chassis design to account for more plank wear when you have more downforce. What are your thoughts, Falabi?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are so many things that were pointed out for this
Yeah.
drop-off. For instance, it was caused mainly by the floor or chassis damage. Basically, I think the floor or the chassis was damaged somewhat, and then the front wing setup, then high tire pressure, which affected the plank, and I think they had to raise the ride height, and then they said that also that it was doing
Yeah,
some kind
sorry,
of
they raised the ride height by adding more pressure to the tires,
yeah, yes, they
and then by
added
doing that,
pressure
you
to
lose
the
grip.
tire and they raise the ride height so that at least they can be within the safe limits of the F1. And then defensive driving again, and the penalty for being too reactive under braking, which is also a
Yeah.
safety concern for F1. And then basically, I think the car was just not strong enough to fight for victory.
Yeah. Well, here's what it is. The car was doing well because, and this is a pattern that they have where, like with Hamilton in China, it was doing well in free practices and everything. But in those free practices and in the early stint of the race, you can keep it at that low ride height, which leads to illegal plank wear. But that when the race goes on, you have to do 70 laps. The plank is going to either be worn out. So that's why he had to raise the tires. But by raising the tires, it's less grip because the less pressure you have in the tires, the more grip, which is why they were having problems on the corner. And George Russell, I don't know why George Russell is studying these guys' telemetry as if it's going to make him drive fast. George Russell said that it's clear that they had their engine modes on low later on in the race because if you have your engine mode on high mode on the corners, it's going to even wear the plank more. But my question is, what the fuck is wrong with George Russell? Why is he wasting his time analyzing these people's car? This is why he's about to lose his job to Verstappen and why he's not driving. I've said it before. Russell is a good driver, but he's spreading himself too far. Why is he analyzing the race right after to see what what's going on with Ferrari's car, as if that's going to have. It's like, you know what we say in Nigeria, because people who are not from Nigeria, I mean,
What they
bro,
call
he just like tell on other people.
Amebo.
But to be honest,
that's the word, amebo.
I don't see how it helped him. I don't see how it helps him as a driver.
It doesn't
It
at
doesn't
all.
help him. It doesn't help him as a driver because it's not his car. He's just trying to get them into trouble. George Russell tries to win more by embarrassing other teams and getting them penalized like he did with Verstappen rather than focus on his. I know I'm getting off tangent, but it's annoying. What are your thoughts, Mr. Johnny, in general about the explanation for why Ferrari didn't do well? Then we can talk a little bit about Russell. Yeah.
Man, just seeing it, I think that car is more messed up than we think. You know,
Yeah.
and I thought of some things, but forgotten what they are now.
Yeah.
Maybe Kule, if you are ready, you go ahead.
I was talking.
Yeah, well, I was going to briefly on Russell, then I'll come back to the Ferrari. I think Russell just likes to get into people's heads. And that's just his personality.
Not helping him.
He has an asshole. Well, he's a bit of an asshole, but I mean, just has that. That's what I like about him. There's a bit of an asshole personality.
Okay, but
getting back to the subject at hand.
But quickly. So forget about him annoying other people. My argument is that he's actually undermining his career as a driver because he's wasting too much energy on trolling other people rather than getting into a zen space where you focus only on your car. Do you see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
I'm not mad at him for telling on other people, but I'm saying he's undermining his own career because even though he may be a great driver, there's a finite amount of energy you have, and it's backfiring on him. That's what I'm saying, because last year when he told him Verstappen threatened him before the race, and then he lost his composure. And this year he's focusing on other people, and he's not even getting the contract he wants. So I'm saying his strategy is not working for him. Go ahead.
Well, he probably doesn't see it that way, and he wants to blame the car.
Oh yeah, he doesn't see it that way. That's why he needs to be watching our show so he can take notes. Go ahead.
So on this Ferrari's constant problem with the adjustment, having to pump their tires up in order to avoid getting disqualified, like what happened to Hamilton. I think Hamilton had the same problem in the sprint race. Where was it? The sprint race he won.
Yeah.
When he had a disaster.
And he disqualified.
And then he had a similar sort of disaster in the main race as well, due to similar problems. And then he got disqualified in other races. And we're seeing Leclerc.
was disqualified. Hamilton was disqualified for playing.
Yeah, Hamilton was disqualified. Yes, and then in order to avoid disqualification, Leclerc had to compromise his car.
Yeah. And he also had his front wing into. His front wing went off.
So these chopping and changing issues need to be resolved by Ferrari. Sometimes we look at everything, and sometimes we say, "Oh, is it the team? Is the team energy?" Or it's just this, or it's just that. It looks like there's a lot of little things that are coming together to make Ferrari have a big problem. And the fact that they're still competitive despite this big problem tells me that, look, they have a really good power unit. They have two really good drivers. They need to sort out this floor clearance. They need to sort out why they're having so much problems with grip. Why the plant keeps wearing away. They need to sort these problems out. I don't know if they can sort, but then again, you're going to have, because they're going to have a whole heap of new problems next season when all the new restrictions and rules come in.
So here's the problem, Kulek. When you change your front suspension like that, and you say, "Oh, we're changing it because McLaren and Mercedes does, and it has more downforce," it's not that simple, because you have to look at how your car is, and cars are complex. There's hundreds of thousands of variables. So this goes to the methodology that McLaren uses. Remember last year we talked about that, Fabi? When McLaren makes a change in their car, it's one small change, and they do thousands of confounding variable tests to see how it acts in different contexts before they decide to bring an upgrade. So in other words, that's a major upgrade, basically. And before you do it, you have to do experiments to see how it works under thousands of conditions. That's why you need sim time. So what I'm saying is they didn't take the time or the money to do that. If they knew they were going to make that change, they should have been planning it a year and a half before that.
Very good. You just reminded me what I want to say. Exactly what that. They did it. For example, Ferrari did a lot of simulations, and then the simulations went well.
McLaren did a lot of simulations.
No, I'm talking about Ferrari too as well. Yeah. They did their own simulation work. It went well, but they did not factor in the part of in real time when
Curbs and things.
the curbs and then the everything. They didn't factor in all that. So when they took the car to the track for the real stuff, that's when that problem came. They still did not solve that problem of the low of the ground and then the low downforce. And they just base off their calculations on something, but then they don't factor in, and that's why every weekend they're going to lose out. Every weekend they're just going to lose out.
They should have done? They should have created a model of that car which wasn't exactly like that car, so that they could test drive, because you're not allowed to test drive your new car during off season. But they should have tried to find the old car, but try to make it as much as possible like the new car to do that. But yeah, they just didn't have it. But this goes to tell you though that means these guys have been doing a lot of lab work, McLaren, because whatever McLaren's system is of testing, it must be closer to real world conditions. I bet you that somewhere, I'm telling you, somewhere hidden somewhere beyond our sight, McLaren was probably testing its car. But it doesn't even have to be Lando and Oscar. They may have some hidden track somewhere, and they were having other people test those cars, even dummies. Do you get my point? Because I don't know how McLaren is on top of all of these, and they keep bringing upgrades, and the upgrades are working. Remember that time you said you saw those devices they had on the car? They had those pulses, those radar detectors on their car. Remember?
Yeah,
we saw them last year. Said they were probably those things that they were using. You're not supposed to be using those things that they put on the tires and everything that were met. So what it is that McLaren has some way of diagnostics, which is going around the rules or something, so that they can find out more. And you have to remember, McLaren, do they also make airplanes, or is it just cars?
I think
McLaren is a very powerful engineering company.
Aircraft engines.
Yeah, so they have billions of dollars outside of F1, and I'm sure that they're using their technology from all their other sectors to put into their car.
Yeah,
and they also do a lot in e-racing too. So it's like, any last thoughts on Mr. Johnny before we move back to our
Mr. Ferrari? I can imagine now that Ferrari are not doing anything. They are not doing anything to their car. There's nothing going on. As I'm sure that's what is probably disappointing Leclerc and Ferrari and Hamilton. You know, when they pass by, the mechanics are not doing anything. Just there. I'm sure I'm sure in Italians, everything. I'm sure they are just loose about it. It's a Ferrari now. It will go.
We did that when I have my cappuccino. Next year.
Exactly. I'm sure. And those kind of things are probably scary for someone like Lewis Hamilton. He knows that he's coming from Mercedes, where they're always, they're always something. Somebody's doing something, But I'm sure in Ferrari, you have to flog them to do something. Like,
speaking of Mercedes, look what's on the screen.
Bottas. which is Pono mustache. Yeah. So I think Ferrari is in trouble.
We're going to do a show on Bottas next week.
Yeah. I think Ferrari is in trouble. If they don't, they're going to be laughing stock.
And to be honest, at the end of the day, this season is over. This season is over. They need to forget it and focus. But here's the thing. I think Hamilton and Leclerc are racers. They're not thinking about next year. They want to win something this year. Here's a number that's very scary. Leclerc has had 27 pole positions in his life and only won 5 races. That's a crazy conversion rate. He's not converting his
That's
and this goes back to those years where it's not just him. It goes to show you how unreliable Ferrari is, because those years where you said, you said yesterday, where they were better than Red Bull, but they kept losing. So that just goes to show you. That's why Leclerc is frustrated. By now, Leclerc should have about 15 wins. He's had 27 pole positions and only 5 victories his whole career. So he's fed up with that team. What are your thoughts, Afolabi?
Yeah, and if you look at some of the things I even noticed from the analysis and the research I did, they said that Leclerc was not using full power at the end of the straights. Wasn't using full power on his throttle.
Yeah.
He wasn't hitting the 8th gear, and he had reduced his ERS deployment, basically. So this made him slower than the other racers. And then his cornering speed was compromised because of the increased tire pressure. The increased tire pressure, led to, handling issues, and it also affected his cornering and acceleration. And affected his acceleration.
Yeah,
so I think what they did was the plank wear thing. They were scared. They were going to be found out. And what they did ultimately affected his balance and his cornering and his acceleration as well. So it was too much tinkering that affected the whole race and dropped his pace. Yeah.
Yeah. They had no choice. And what Leclerc said, that's why he now said, you should have let me do this myself. He was basically saying that you don't have to raise the tire height. Leave it at the regular thing. Let me take the risk. He knows what he can do. Lift, what do they call it? Lift and coast. He would figure out ways to, during the race. Yeah, he'll figure out a way, or he'll take less of the curves or something like that. I still think he would have eventually lost. And see, that's why he had such a big lead, because at the beginning of the race, it looked like he was going to destroy Piastri. That's why Piastri wore his tires out, trying to keep up with Leclerc. But what they did was robbing Peter to pay Paul, or borrowing money today, but tomorrow you have to pay it back. So that speed that Leclerc had at the start of the race, you have to pay the piper on the second stint. You get my point. It's like running the 800 meters and you run the first 400 full speed. Yes, this guy is going to win. Nah, because the second lap you're going to be running crawling because you used up all of your energy. So basically, Leclerc, he didn't make a mistake. The car was low and it was fast. McLaren couldn't keep up with it, but they had to pay the price because of the plank wear, and then they had to raise the tires because they said if we keep on like this, we're going to get eliminated. If I were them, I would just keep driving and hope that you pass the test. But that goes to show you how bad their plank wear is. It's really bad. Yeah. And like I said, at some point they have to think about next year, and they need to do it now because if they don't get their chassis correct next year, that's it. Hamilton his whole career will be wasted. What are your thoughts, Kunle?
Yeah, but if you notice, all the other teams, everyone is having problems except McLaren, and I'll give you the reason why they have this advantage. Because you see Ferrari with this crisis, you see Mercedes being less competitive, becoming the Tottenham of Formula One. You see Red Bull about to come down the hill once they lose Verstappen, and the only team that seems to be thriving really in the top 4, 3, or 5 is McLaren. And when you look at their team and their team of mechanics and engineers, they're not really part of the musical chairs. When teams like Red Bull and Ferrari and these other teams have mechanics and members of the team coming and out, they rotate around them. But I don't think any of McLaren's technicians and engineers rotate around the same group of circuits in the same way. They seem to be more ingrained, which means that all the things that they have learned.
They're not even in England.
Yeah. They're all the things that
they're
they
not
have
in
learned.
England. All of these.
So
Sorry,
all the things that they learn and develop within their team doesn't get out to the other teams. So the secrets as to how to get past these obstacles that Ferrari has, if McLaren has solved them, because McLaren doesn't share their mechanics and their engineers with everyone else isn't going to be on top of it. By the time they're on top of it, McLaren keep moving from strength to strength. Because I think that at this point, Ferrari actually literally need to do some industrial espionage to find out what it is that the other teams are doing to sort this thing out. They need to find out because there's obviously an answer and they just haven't got it. So Ferrari need to need to do that. But I don't think that there's any way that there's no other way that they can find out from McLaren. McLaren isn't going to release any of its team members outside for that sort of opportunity for Ferrari to acquire. So that's a strength that McLaren has. Moving on, they're very methodical, and their mechanics, they have a culture of being basically eggheads. Like I said before, they want everything pristine and perfect. They just lack the experience of racecraft. But clearly, they're beginning to pick that up very quickly because once you got a fast car, it's easy to develop it becomes more easy to manage and develop those sort of successful results, and it's beginning to show. I mean, they're far, far ahead of Ferrari and the constructors. Ferrari have even tried to come second in the constructors, but if they don't sort out this problem, they're going to start fading there as well. The fact they're coming second shows again, power unit's good, everything else, drivers are good, everything else needs a lot of work.
Yeah, but also you have to remember, so it may not even be just that McLaren has industrial secrets. They're also well structured and they follow through. Like maybe Toto Wolff can have his hands on this information, but he's mismanaging the team for profit. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Because it's one thing to know what you need to do for the car. It's another thing to spend the money. And then this is why McLaren, they're based in Woking, England, but they brought in Zach Brown. Zach Brown brings in money from Indy, from America. And we all know that in this economic phase now, the U.S. has a big advantage over Europe in money because European economy has crashed. So this is why you now see Cadillac coming in. And I won't be surprised if next year Cadillac even gets points. Not because, and I'll look at Haas too. So the idea is that America's now bringing in money. Britain has the engineers and everything, but America's bringing in a lot of money. And I think Zach Brown coming in and bringing money is one of the reasons, because McLaren can now do everything properly and still make profit. Whereas with Toto Wolff is like, man, my son needs a new Rolls Royce, or I need to spend money on a wind tunnel. I would buy my son a Rolls Royce. that type of thing. I'm serious. Same thing with Ferrari. They weren't putting the upgrades of time. Maybe the board of trustees. And now that this economic crisis is hitting the world, and have you looked at, Trump has tariffs on Europe. Europe has to pay 15% to bring goods to America, but America pays nothing for Europe. That shows that Europe is now America's bitch, which is why also Toto Wolff brought in Liberty Media, which is watering down F1. So you see the level of imbalance between America and Europe, whereas Europe pays tariffs, and they agreed to sign the deal. So the idea is that this is why they're bringing in all these new teams, Cadillac, Andretti, and Haas. Even Haas is owned by an American guy. So the Americans are bringing in their money, and the money is more important than these traditional teams like Mercedes and Cole. What do you think, Johnny? Yeah.
Yeah.
This money issue is a big issue. The money. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the money. I was actually just stewing over still over Ferrari. I mean, like, check it out there. Just take us back. Sorry. During the last race, that means Ferrari was planning to actually fail. I mean, all that was just show.
Yeah,
the
they didn't
engineers
even have a proper plan.
that they had a problem, and everything was just like that. So things just bothered me. Yeah, but I see that the the part about the Americans and their money and the British and their engineers. Yeah, a good combination from McLaren. You don't see that in Ferrari. I'm sure there's nothing. There's nobody. They don't have any American, or there's nothing. Okay, well, Americans buy Ferrari engine. Some of I think Haas has a Ferrari engine.
Haas, and Haas is now helping Ferrari too. Yeah. Haas is going to be working with Ferrari too, and Toyota Gazoo. So Ferrari has to bring in all of these guys in too.
Yeah, so maybe that will help a bit. Some more money.
But they're going to get a new wind tunnel next year from Haas. From yeah. So it's a big problem in F1. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Afolabi?
Yeah.
I think go ahead. Yeah.
So basically, I think
are you on mute?
No, I'm not. It was an issue basically.
Afolabi, what's going on?
I'm there. It was an issue of basically tinkering too much with too many things that ultimately affected Charles Leclerc. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your connection is bad. We should end the show. Yeah, but I think the connection is bad. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I said it was a collection of tinkering with too many things: ride height, tire pressure, and so many other things. The frontiness of the car. They were trying to avoid oversteer, so they tampered with the front wing as well. So everything just came to the fore and affected Leclerc and his performance, and all what he did during the qualifying was not relevant anymore. Like you rightly said, he didn't pay. At the end of the day, he paid the price during the race. So I think the whole redesign, and the planning of the design of the car from the beginning, trying to suit it to Hamilton and everything, I think they'll go back to the drawing board and they will root their mistakes from the beginning of the season. That's what has affected them from the get-go.
Yeah. And going back to what you said, Johnny, so they were planning to fail. When you plan to fail, it means that you know that it's hopeless. And that may be what Hamilton is talking about, that the thing's going to be on the season. They know this season is ruined, but they're just trying Hail Marys. They're trying Hail Marys, but they know the season is ruined. Yeah. And this might explain, remember that video you sent to me, Johnny, about where they changed Hamilton's ride height? He told them he wanted more stability in the back, but they changed it. Maybe they went against his will to change it because they knew that if his car was more stable, it would still lead to more plank wear, but they just didn't want to tell him. You get my point? It could. I'm not. Maybe that. So maybe they're not even listening to the drivers anymore because they know. Like for example,
that the guy's fucked. Yeah, no matter what he did,
you should have listened to me, but they're too afraid. They don't want to get. They don't want to get a penalty for plank wear. So they're not listening to the drivers, not because they don't trust their drivers, but because they know the car is rubbish. Yeah. And so it must be frustrating for the drivers because this is it's a waste of a year for Hamilton and Leclerc, and both of them are frustrated. Leclerc wants to win a world championship. Hamilton wants to win one more or go out in style. So it's a mess up. All right, Quinley, take us out.
Okay, so it's been an exciting day today, discussing the last Grand Prix in
The
Hungary.
connection is getting bad overall for this.
Yes, and from myself, Afolabi, Mustafa, and Johnny, we bid you farewell and adieu, and we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay.
Yo.
Like
right.
and don't cry. Like and don't cry.
Like and don't cry. Just subscribe.
Politics at 3:30.
Politics at 3:30.
So, can we do
buddy.
politics at 3:30? Can we do 3:30 politics?
Yeah, okay. Can do. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right.